It's one of the most famous and historical franchises in all of gaming, and today, we're going to rank the top 5 Legend of Zelda games of all time. Before we get into the top 5, I want to give out 2 honorable mentions. Now, the first goes to Skyward Sword. When I originally played it back in the fall of 2011, I'll be honest, I didn't love it. I thought it stuck too much to the Zelda formula that was, frankly, getting a little bit tired by that point. I wanted something a little bit fresher. But, having replayed it this past year, I realized I didn't give it enough credit. The visuals are vibrant, the characters all have personalities, and the story is actually pretty good. It's not enough to crack the top 5, mind you, but Skyward Sword is certainly a game worth playing. My other honorable mention goes to, and I'm going to hold my breath here, Majora's Mask. I know this is many people's favorite Zelda title, and I get it. It's dark, unique, quirky, mysterious. What else could you want, right? I'm well aware that this is an unpopular opinion, but when I originally played Majora's Mask back in 2000, and every time I've replayed it since, it seems like, I don't know, kind of like a fan-made Ocarina of Time side quest. It's almost like a DLC pack, and I understand. The game is iconic. It just never resonated with me the way these top 5 games did. Before we get started on the top 5, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It's free, it doesn't cost you a penny, and it lets me get content to you guys quicker and easier. Thank you, and now on to the top 5 Legend of Zelda games. Number 5, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Nintendo could have gone in a lot of different directions with their first and only Zelda title on the Super Nintendo. They could have continued down the side-scrolling path of their then most recent console title, The Adventure of Link, which, by the way, does not appear on this countdown because I want to fire that game into the sun. But instead, they went back to the franchise's roots. They created a beautiful, sprawling, top-down Hyrule with an added twist of an extra dimension layered in. This 16-bit Hyrule is absolutely gorgeous, and the gameplay is right there to match. The game is challenging, it's fun to explore, and the environments are varied and unique. It was the perfect game for its time, and has aged absolutely beautifully. Number 4, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Now, in many ways, Breath of the Wild is actually the best overall game on this countdown. But, as I felt back in 2017 when the game was released, and I still feel now, it's the best game in the Zelda series, but not the best Zelda game in the Zelda series. I hope you guys understand what I mean by that. As a standalone title, Breath of the Wild is simply incredible. It's open, diverse, it's huge, and well worth the hundreds of hours that so many gamers have put into it. It's the first Zelda game in forever, maybe ever, to not feature a single dungeon, but for its formula that actually works. In the dungeon's place are shrines, and there are over 100 of them hidden across Hyrule. Gamers like myself spent countless hours traversing the hills, mountains, and plains of Hyrule, finding Koroks under every rock and around every bend, upgrading weapons and shields and buying attire, and training and capturing horses for companions, learning how to kill Gardens and Lynels, and just enjoying the vast beauty that Breath of the Wild is. It's a detailed love letter to the original 8-bit Legend of Zelda game. Speaking of which, number 3, The Legend of Zelda. So I was tempted to put this at number 1 for a hot minute, The original Zelda is captivating, especially when you consider that it was released in 1986. This thing is a marvel of game design. And in 2023, it's still incredibly fun to play. Each dungeon is unique and nuanced, and each enemy therein is challenging in their own way. I've played this game dozens of times over the last 3 decades, and it still brings me back to being a kid each time I flip it on. And the beauty of this game is that it throws you right into this world, Hyrule, with no guidance whatsoever. And consider being a kid back in the mid to late 80s when we didn't have, maps at the ready. We didn't have, we couldn't Google and look up, where to go. We had to actually figure this thing out from scratch. We had giant pieces of paper taped together and pencils, and we had to chart this map as we went. And so when you start, you have 3 paths in front of you and a cave in the top left, and that's it. And don't skip the cave. It's dangerous to go alone. The original Zelda was one of the first games to master an upgrade system too, as you take your sword from wooden to white to magical, and your shield and your boomerang from wooden to magical. And you can upgrade arrows and potions and even a ring to boost your defense. The 9 dungeons are each more challenging than the last, and each dungeon holds a new item to help you along your journey. The Legend of Zelda is a charming, timeless adventure. But speaking of time, Number 2, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now let's face it, I really could have co-number 1 games on this list, as I love the top 2 pretty equally. But if I had to choose one to list at number 2, it's the game that some consider to be the greatest video game of all time. This was the first Zelda game that I played all the way through. I got it for Christmas in 1998, and I instantly fell in love with it. The game follows a formula set off by the original 8-bit title, and then again in A Link to the Past. You have to seek out and find 3 spiritual stones as a child and 5 medallions as an adult in order to set up the final encounter with the evil Ganon. And just a note, there's technically 6 medallions, but they spot you one. Ocarina of Time beautifully adapts Super Mario 64's engine and transforms Hyrule into its first 3-dimensional wonderland. So many moments in this game's experience are iconic. The first time you see Hyrule Marketplace after traveling forward in time, grabbing the Master Sword from its pedestal for the first time, hearing the Great Deku Tree's last words, watching the shadow creature escape from the well in Kakariko Village. I could go on forever. Ocarina of Time simply features iconic moment after iconic moment. And the soundtrack, well, the soundtrack is perhaps more iconic than those story-driven moments. Anyone who's ever played this game can hum Zelda's lullaby or the piano in the opening credits. This soundtrack is simply fantastic from start to finish with no wasted songs. The game itself is so rooted in music. It's the greatest game of its generation, bar none, and yet, do you ever feel a strange sadness as dusk falls? There are so many reasons why I love this game. It takes nearly every element of Ocarina of Time and improves it. It's a dark, magical, brooding, mysterious, captivating tale. Its graphical style is dark by design and the most realistic looking in the series. The villages and dungeons are appropriately dead, whether Link is in human or wolf form. It adds to the overall mood of the game. Each area's environment feels more akin to its name. The forest is winding like a system of roots. The desert is dry and barren. Snow Peak is freezing and splintering apart from the sub-zero temperatures. The story is captivating. Link starts off as a young man in Orden Village and grows into the successor to the hero of time, which is all too appropriate given that this game is Ocarina of Time's spiritual successor. The bosses are the best in the series. From the chained-up giant Pyrus and the eventually lovable Blizzetta, to the game's primary villain, the evil king Zant, who is my favorite villain in the series as it happens. Twilight Princess's bosses will stick with you for a lifetime. It features the most memorable and lovable sidekick in the entire series, Midna. She's quirky, funny, and frankly the only sidekick from the series that I don't actively dislike, so I guess the sidekick bar wasn't all that high. But in any case, she's fantastic, and certainly the best in the franchise. And she plays a very important role in the overall plot of the game, which isn't unveiled until very, very late in the story. And I know the game came out 17 years ago, but I still won't give it away for anyone who hasn't played yet. Twilight Princess was adapted for the Wii's motion controls, though it was originally developed for the GameCube. Nintendo did an admirable job transitioning the game's core mechanics for the Wiimote and the Nunchuck controller as Link's sword and shield. It ended up immersing the player into the game more than ever before. Skyward Sword would later feature a more deluxe version of the Wii's motion controls, which, to me, felt more gimmicky than useful. The motion controls in Twilight Princess, while featuring less accuracy in terms of the Wiimote to sword relationship, they never felt forced. I could go on for hours and hours about this beautiful entry in the Legend of Zelda series, but I'll leave it there for this video. Twilight Princess, for my money, is the definitive Zelda game. Hey, did you enjoy this video? Agree or disagree with any of my choices? Feel free to leave a comment and let me know how you feel. And don't forget to like and subscribe as well. It's super important to the health of the channel and I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.